Hi everybody, this is Kristen and I'm here for another video. Hope you're all doing well out there and enjoying your day. It's a beautiful sunny day here, cooler weather, and this is my weather. I love the hoodie weather and comfortable clothes. And this is usually what I wear all the time. Anything to be comfortable. But I wanted to start off the video with a thank you for all the sweet comments the other day when I posted a picture of myself. I really appreciate all the wonderful comments, and I wanted to respond to a few messages that I got about my spicy comment. And all that meant was that for my special occasion, it's what you call a birthday, okay? And I no longer call it a birthday, I call it a solar return. And people that are aware of this, that understand about reincarnation and what we believe with spirituality, don't believe in it being called a birthday, because you're reincarnated into that new experience that you picked before you decided to reincarnate here. Okay, so we call it a solar return. And, people wish me a happy birthday, and that's fine. And I say thank you, and, because that's not what they believe. But that's what I meant. So I'm just clearing that up. Yeah, I just moved and don't really know anybody yet. So I wanted to get all dressed up and go out, and I don't really have a problem with, going out by myself or, another person that is not my age, a family member, to go out on the town or whatever. It's once in a while, a woman needs to feel like a woman, it's just a normal thing. And, you want to feel confident and pretty once in a while. And everybody has a divine feminine side. Everyone has a divine masculine side. And it just depends on, where you are in your journey. But yeah, that's what I was doing. I don't normally get dressed up, but when I do, I like to usually go all out, And I really didn't even bring a whole lot of clothes with me when I moved, but I kept a dress. Actually a couple dresses. But I wanted to go out and just let loose, So, and it wasn't really like, a wild time or anything. I don't usually do all that anymore, But went out for a nice dinner, or actually a nice breakfast, and then a nice dinner, and did a couple other things. But, pretty low key, but it was so nice to get all dressed up for the whole day and, spend a little bit more money on going out to eat, and it was nice. So anyways, I just wanted to address that really quick. And I don't normally, put myself out there, but, once in a while, why not? We're supposed to practice self-love, We're children of God. We're divine. We're we're supposed to be loving ourselves, you know? And whatever that looks like for you, that's fine. So anyways, I just thought it was very sweet on the comments that I got. And some of the messages I had to clear up. So anyways. Today's healing lesson is learning about spirituality. And like I talked about a few minutes ago, spirituality is basically your reincarnation, your new experience that you wanted to experience here. You created it, you know, detail by detail. And there's a lot that goes with that, but one of the main things that I wanted to mention is that spirituality has been around for ages and ages, okay? And I know when I first heard about spirituality, and this was years ago, before I ever knew anything about spirituality, that I got the wrong impression of what it was. You know, that it was all dark magic and you know, witchcraft and, you know, whatever. And yes, you can take it that direction. Because like I've said in the past, everything is energy. It's how you use it. But spirituality is, in my eyes, and I know in many others that understand about this awakening journey and about God and spirit and whatever you want to call God, is that it's all about it's a personal relationship. It's a communication with the divine, with the Most High, with spirit. And it's not, you know, like just praying on a Sunday and you're done for the week, and, you know, because I grew up with that, guys. I was raised Catholic, and I went to church for 18 years, and I was in a Catholic school for 9 years, from kindergarten to 8th grade, and I didn't connect at all. I understood what was going on, but I didn't connect. I didn't feel connected. And I always felt like something was missing, like I wasn't being told something. And so, yeah, I always felt disconnected in the school that I went to, and even when I went to church, I didn't feel connected. And with whatever the priest was saying, it just kind of went in one ear and out the other. And that may be controversial, not politically correct, you know, in the Christian community. But that's the honest truth. I was raised like that, and I just never felt like I belonged with the teachings. Not that I didn't learn to be a good person or, you know, respect other people, you know, those kinds of things, and prayer as well. And I always believed in God, but I always felt something was missing. And when I took this journey, I didn't even realize I was starting a journey. I had no idea that I was being led in this direction. It's not like I picked up a book one day and I started learning about spirituality and everything clicked and I was like, oh, I like this, you know. No, it had nothing to do with that. You know, I had mentioned this in one of my first videos, that I was going through the dark night of the soul, and which is a very hard and humbling experience, and it's a devastating experience, and it kind of opens up your heart chakra, and cracks you open emotionally. It really humbles you. But anyways, so I was going through this period of my life, and I was sitting on a log down on Lake Superior and focusing on the sunrise. A red sun was rising, and I was focusing on it, and all of a sudden I saw a 3D image, and it was seriously, guys, it was a 3D face in the clouds that formed. One eye opened, then the other eye, the nose, the mouth. And the eyes were of fire. And it was staring at me. And it was a face. It was a literal face. And you could see it, like plain as day. And the face was staring at me, and I knew it was God, and I knew there was something else. Something bigger, a bigger picture, something massive that was taking place. And it was kind of like I was jolted out of my 3D experience into this amazing moment in my life. And I knew it was God, and I knew God was trying to tell me something. And at the time I didn't know what, but I knew that there was something bigger going on with me. And telepathically, it was like we were communicating. And I remember thinking to myself, I can do better, because it felt like I was being examined at that moment, and like God was looking through my soul, comforting me, but at the same time trying to get my attention. And I just remember saying to myself, I can do better. And from that moment on, everything changed in my life. And excuse me, I started becoming obsessed with information, and for years, and it was like this journey that just kind of, it jolted me out of my situation and threw me onto a different path, and everything just moved in my life in the opposite direction, for the good. But it was a very hard journey. But anyways, so I've mentioned that in the past. Sorry for the recap, guys, but some people may not have known my experience, and it really pertains to this subject. So I never picked up a book the entire time on my journey for the last how many years that I've been on this Great Awakening journey. I never picked up a book. I never went to a class. I never joined a group. It was a personal, one-on-one experience with Spirit, with God. And like I said, I didn't know that I was taking this journey. Everything just kind of happened, one thing after the other, and it happened very slowly. And the more I learned about everything going on in the world, the more I connected with I connected with my higher self, my soul. Right? I was doing both at the same time, not realizing it. And everything was changing. I was changing. I was turning into a completely different person. And everybody noticed it. Everybody was watching, how I changed. I started becoming connected with nature and animals and plants, flowers. Bees. I used to be terrified of bees, and all of a sudden they started landing on me, and I felt so, I connected with them on a a deeper level that I just didn't understand. It was like everything was at a frequency, a higher frequency, and I was at that frequency, connecting with things that I didn't realize that I was starting to have a connection with. I saw beauty in everything, in the mundane, in the things that people take for granted every day. The birds started like flying like in slow motion, and I was paying attention to their wings and the way they flew through the air, and they started flying close to me and landing around me, and I've had birds land on me. I would have animals just come out of the blue and come close to me. One time I had like a whole group of deer. It was on the beach. It was like in the grassy area of the beach. And I had like 6 deer start coming towards me. And a few of them were bucks. They were big racks too. I mean, they were bigger. And walking right towards me. And they stopped and stood and stared at me. And then walked right by me. I mean, I've had a lot of those experiences with animals where, they feel comfortable around me. Their frequency, they're on the God frequency. They're closer to God, And I've mentioned this before as well, about how I've stopped eating meat. Because when animals pass on, when they're taken to the butchers, you know what I mean. I don't want to go into that, but they are connected. They are very connected because they're grounding all day long onto the earth, which is a very big part of spirituality, because you're connecting with the earth. It calms your nervous system. There's so many different benefits from doing that, but you're connecting in nature that way. But animals constantly do that, and their energy is so high. But yeah, and when animals know what's going on, when they're about to be, and so that energy of them being in fear because they know what's coming transfers to you when you eat meat. And I know it was quite a long time ago that I knew about not eating meat. That was one of the things, because meat also carries a lot of parasites. But everybody takes it takes time for you to get to that point where you just say, okay, I'm done. And it took me quite a long time, even after I knew about all this stuff, because I grew up with hunters. And everything was about eating meat. We were always eating meat. And I even got to the point where I was going to start hunting. And I actually did, but I never killed anything. I tried shooting, and I sat in blinds and that kind of thing, but it was more of a social thing, but never actually did it. But so I grew up in that, so I understand about how hard it is to stop eating meat. But I got to that point where I just said no more. And I understand if you're on a different journey, and that's fine. Everybody's at a different level, and what they believe and what they do, everybody has free will. So no judgments here. I'm just telling you about my journey. But that's another part of it. But yeah, the energy of meat transfers to you, that negative energy, that fear energy. And because I've become so close to animals now, I really have a hard time with eating meat. I even looking at it, I'm on a different level now, and so I don't believe in it anymore. But the people around me do, and they have their own journey, and so you're not supposed to control someone else's journey. You can help them along their journey, show them information, but you can't make someone else's decisions for them. That's their journey, that's their free will, and you cannot go against anyone's free will. And if they don't consent to it, then you can't go against that. Everything is about consent, and everyone's journey is theirs, and you can't go against someone else's journey. But so that's another reason why, or another part of spirituality. But because I was connecting with the earth and plants, flowers, whatever, I just felt so connected to everything and the details of everything. It's like everything became so much, so potent, so clear, so connected, and all the details that you normally wouldn't see in your regular everyday 3D experience, they become magnified when you're on a higher frequency. And all of a sudden I was connecting to things and growing plants and flowers, and animals like crazy were coming into my yard, and I'd meditate and I'd wake up and there's birds all over the place, and animals that come out of nowhere, and I talk about Halo, an albino doe that was in my experience for quite a while, around where I was living before I sold my home. But yeah, I was meditating one day and woke up or opened my eyes, and she was laying underneath a tree on the other side of our fence. Just beautiful, just angelic, just very graceful, and I'd see her all the time. But those are some of the experiences that you have when you become more spiritual. You start realizing you're on a higher frequency. It's like a radio station. Everything's connected to a frequency. Just like the feeling when you're listening to hard rock music, you get a different feeling from that compared to classical music. It's like a mood change. It's hard to describe, but you are on a higher frequency. And it just depends on, what you do in your everyday life that puts you on that higher frequency. Grounding in nature, no fluoride in your water, no meat, drinking a lot of water, meditating, getting in nature, connecting with animals. There's a lot of different things that you can do, but my point being is that spirituality is more of a one-on-one, well, it is a one-on-one connection with God. And I never opened one book. to learn. I never connected with a group or anything like that. And I didn't even realize that I was being led down this road. Spirit showed me, slowly, kind of waking me up to what was missing in my life, what I wasn't seeing beyond the veil. What was on the other side that I never realized was there, that I couldn't see. But once you start waking up, you can start to see. You can start to see amazing things. And you'd be amazed at your experiences. You start having magical experiences. I've had some miracles happen in my life. Whether it be near-death experiences and my angels saving me, because I've had those. Or just everyday experiences. I mean, I've had some almost, pretty much supernatural experiences in my life. And those are definitely for other videos. But when you start waking up, you not only start seeing the light in your experiences with God, but you also start seeing the opposite. The dark aspects, the darkness in spirituality, because it can go both ways. And it does. Spirituality can get very dark because it's all energy. And some people take it in very dark places. And I'm definitely not one of those. Because I know a lot of what goes on with that. And that is not my journey. I don't want anything to do with that side of it. And the reason I mention that spirituality, it should be and it needs to be a one-on-one experience with you and God. Because sometimes, if you want to get into this reality, if you want to experience this with spirituality, you want to learn fast and you want to understand the aspects of it and all the details of it, and you think it should be from a group of people or an organization or from a book or whatever, I would highly suggest you don't go that route. Because if you don't understand it, you can be manipulated. Because this realm is all about spell work, guys. And I've mentioned this in the past. This hell realm is all about spell work. We're ascending out of it. We're slowly, gradually ascending out of this realm. But you have to realize that there's light and dark in everything. And this realm is light and dark. And this was one of the things that really opened my eyes learning about all of this stuff. Is that, if you don't believe in this realm being about spell work, what class did you take when you were a child that you started learning about right away in elementary school? Spelling class. That was an eye-opener for me. to believe about that stuff, about this stuff, because it's very true. Very true. But if you don't know the symbolism of light and dark, if you don't know the aspects of it, and you're joining a group and thinking it's all fun and, just something fun to do around Halloween, or, getting together with a group of girls and dressing up like witches and whatever, you could have someone in that group that knows a lot more than you do and might be doing some manipulating that you don't know about, that you are a part of, or that you will be a part of because you are with that group. And you're giving consent without realizing it. And this realm is all about consent. Okay, and knowingly or unknowingly. And you need to be aware of this because you can be manipulated and be stuck in a situation that you can't get out of by joining, a group, whatever. And I know there's good ones out there, guys. I'm not saying that there's not. But you got to be really careful on what you join and what you consent to and what comes out of your mouth, the words you speak, because everything is spells, guys. Everything, good and the bad. This realm is all about spells. The good and the bad. We are creators. We are source energy, God energy. So we are all powerful because we're children of God. We are part of that energy. So your thoughts, your words, everything that you do, everything you say is powerful. And if you're joining in on a group of people that are all saying the same thing, they're chanting the same things, if they're, saying things that you might not realize that are involved with something else or casting spells on someone else, you're getting into some crazy, not good stuff. Because that stuff is not just having fun. Okay? This is serious, serious stuff, and you got to be aware of it. Be careful of what you say, of what you sign. Make sure you read what you sign. The contracts that you sign. Be aware of everything that is coming out of your mouth, what you're thinking. You got to be real careful because there is a lot of manipulation around that, going on out there. And people that don't know what they're getting involved with. You could get into something and not be able to get out of it. So awareness is key, guys. Awareness is key. And the reason that I say this is a one-on-one journey, because this is one of the main reasons. So that you don't get manipulated into something that you don't know what you're getting involved with. And you could easily sell your soul out, guys. So I don't want to, put any fear out there. As long as you are, there, a little bit more light. As long as you are connecting with God and having that communication and that one-on-one relationship and opening up your chakras and meditating and doing the right things, connecting in nature, paying attention more to God's creations, looking at everything like everything has a place to go to, right? Just like you have a place to go every day and you have your own journey. All animals, all insects, everything that is alive also has a journey, also has a path to go down, also has a mission here, also has a purpose. Everything is to be looked at with respect, honor, dignity, because everything is reincarnation. You pick what you want to do when you come back here, what experience you want to experience. So you could have come back as a bird. I mean, whoops. There, I had to adjust it for more light. But I really want to stress taking this journey, into a one-on-one relationship over learning out of a book or a group or in another way. It's so important. And that's what my journey was. I was being awakened without realizing it. I was out in the mornings taking pictures during the sunrise, quite a bit, like for years. Not every day, but for most days. Connecting with God on that level. The Son of God, S-U-N, over the S-O-N, Son of God. Because the Bible is real, but it's manipulated. It's basically an ascension guide, not to be taken literally. And many are going to have problems with that. I understand that. It's what you grew up with. That's what you believe. And part of this journey is unlearning the lies. Unlearning what you were taught. And generations were taught the same thing, but lies are coming to the front, guys. We're being shown the truth of everything, and the veil is thin. Once you start raising your consciousness to Christ consciousness through opening up your chakras, you're going to start to see through the veil. You're going to start seeing the truth of everything going on around you. But spirituality can be taken in both directions. And if you want to look at it as good witches and bad witches, I guess you can do that. But there's good and bad in everything. There's positive and negative in everything. It's balance. One cannot work without the other. You know, when it's dark inside your house, you turn on a light to be able to see. And when you want to sleep, you turn off the light. You know, you can't have one without the other. And everything is energy. Everything is energy. Everything is balance. You know, just like in a movie, you've got the villain, the hero, light and dark. But spirituality is a personal journey. And the more you get out in nature and connect, that's what we were originally made for. What God made us to be is to live in nature and to provide everything for us in nature. Plants, animals, you know, to live in that environment. So I'm trying to think of anything else that I haven't mentioned. I'm thinking that's basically it. So again, I hope this clears that part up about, you know, people being scared of hearing about spirituality. God is the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. The Father, the Son, S-U-N, and the Holy Spirit. The Spirit within you, your soul. And part of spirituality and this journey is connecting your soul to your body. And that may sound crazy, but learn how to connect your soul with your body. Your soul is like hanging outside of yourself, you know, kind of like hanging by a rope. You don't realize that. But your soul is, it's kind of like floating outside of you. So you have to learn how to connect it to your body, okay? How to bring it back into your body. And there are, you know, other social platforms that can show you how to do that. And I'm trying to think, it was YouTube or Telegram or, you know, I can't remember. Gosh, it's been a long time since I've looked that information up, but once you do that, you're going to start noticing some big changes. Amazing changes. But yeah, your soul is kind of floating out here. And you have to connect it back into your body and to realize that you are your soul. You know, you are your higher self. And your higher self is trying to guide you on your journey. Trying to direct you on your path, you know. So are your angels and ancestors, spirit guides. They're all waiting for you to consent, to give them permission to be involved in your life, to help you on your journey. Because we have free will here, and if you don't ask, you're not going to get help, which means you're also not going to get protection from things that are going on around you. And you'd be amazed in what you can be protected from when you're connected, and when you have a strong connection with spirit and your angels and spirit team. Let me tell you, I've had some incredible experiences. But I know that they protect me fiercely. They do. They're amazing. And they send me signs. They communicate with me in so many different ways. It's incredible. But it's real, guys. 100% real. I could tell you some stories, and oh my gosh. Another thing I wanted to mention is about affirmations. You can look those up on YouTube. Learn about angel numbers. If you start seeing triple digit numbers, double digit numbers everywhere, if you start seeing, or if you notice the numbers like following you, if you feel like they're following you, you see them on the clock, on license plates, receipts, other signs, whatever. You're trying to be, or they're trying to get your attention, okay? Because they have messages for you to help you on your path. So look those up, look those numbers up to see what the message is for you, and you'd be amazed on those messages, on how it relates to your life. But affirmations as well. Learn about the I am affirmations. So important. Spirit is the great I am. So definitely look up that information. That is part of the journey as well. But yeah, I hope I've cleared up some things with spirituality, with the subject of spirituality. And yeah, it's a journey, but it's so worth it, guys. So worth it. I mean, I wouldn't have changed a thing because of where I am now. Because no matter what's going on around me, I am at peace, and I've learned to be strong in so many situations, to find strength where I didn't know I had it, to forgive people that forgiveness is, that's a whole other subject. But when, that phrase, forgive them for they know not what they do, it's amazing how much you can forgive when you are connected with your heart chakra, and you go through the healing process and the shadow work, and taking those layers off of you that you've accumulated over the years of all of your trauma and things that have attached to you, your demons that have attached to you. You start losing all of that, and your life changes, completely changes at 360s. It's like so many things can be going on around you, and it's like you're not fazed. And I know if I had realized how much was going on in my life, and I had found out about all of this years ago when I wasn't connected with spirit, I don't know how I would have got through it. But when you go through this process, you can get through anything, guys. I mean, anything. Because God gives you that strength. Gives you so much in all different ways to get through anything. And all of this information helps you in not only your spiritual life, but emotionally, physically, mentally, everything. Knowledge is power. But it also helps you turn your pain into power. Whatever you've gone through in your life, it not only helps you heal from everything that's happened to you through your trauma and all the devastating experiences and moments from your lifetime, okay, but Spirit also helps you transform that pain into creative abilities, into transferring that pain into power. It opens you up to realize who you really are in the Spirit, who you really are inside, and that you are a creation of the Almighty. And God gives you His power. God will help you get through anything in your life during this journey if you let Him. And you'll be amazed at how much your life changes for the better. And it will leave you in awe and inspire you every day to do better, to feel better, to help others. And in this awakening journey, and connecting with Spirit and your angels and ancestors and spirit guides, once you start going through all of this, you will want to share the information and share it as much as possible, because we are all connected. Just like when someone yawns, everyone else yawns around you. It's because we are all divinely connected. We are all God's children, so we're all connected in the Spirit. We are the divine collective, all together, all of us. And the more people are aware of this information, and the more you share the information, others become aware. And the more awareness that is shared with everyone, with the collective, okay, the more we all rise in frequency. The more we rise and ascend out of this realm. Okay? That's why it's important to be aware of this information, even if it's information you don't want to hear. You'd be surprised on how much a seed can grow. When you plant the seed, you'd be amazed on what can grow out of that seed from it just being planted and from it being heard. So if you feel inclined, please share this video so others can become aware. And I hope this information helped you and cleared up some things about spirituality. So that's it for today, guys. I went really long. It's almost an hour today. But I know this information is important, and I wanted to try to include as much as possible. And I know some of you aren't going to believe some of this information, and that's okay. You know, you may hear more of this information down the road, and the more you hear it, the more you're going to realize that this is 100% true. But it's normal for when you hear this the first time, you're not going to believe it. It's called cognitive dissonance. And that's normal, because I went through the same thing. A lot of the things that you hear, you know, with this Great Awakening journey and all this information, you're not going to believe it at first. It's normal. Again, it's called cognitive dissonance. And it's a normal thing that happens with your brain. So, anyways, until next time, guys, and I hope you got a lot out of this information, and hope you have a good rest of your day. All right, this is Kristen. Peace, love, and light. Bye.